Our next speaker, Larry Castleberry. Does it itch? Does it itch? Larry Castleberry.
Son, does it itch? This question was posed to me by my father, February the 10th, 1977. Why? Because this is the day I decided to play hooky from school. Let me begin. I was a student at Indian Head Elementary School in Fort Washington, Maryland. And for some reason, I decided that that day would be a good day to skip school. Now, for some reason, it did not occur to my 9-year-old mind that the school might call my dad to inquire about my whereabouts. So imagine my surprise when my dad walked in the door 10 minutes before I was to be dismissed. And he said, with a big smile on his face, "Son, how was school today?" What would a 9-year-old do when he's caught in the act? I looked my daddy in the eye, I smiled, and I said, "It was good." My father smiled, and he said, "Come with me." And we got in the car, and to my horror, we went to my elementary school, where my homeroom teacher, Mrs. Singleton, was waiting. Caught, I confessed my crime. And my daddy started to tell me of the time that he played hooky from school. And what he got from that was, first, a spanking by the principal. And then, a spanking by the teacher. And when my daddy said that, oh, Mrs. Singleton, my first grade teacher, she had a big smile. That was one of those anticipatory smiles of, I'm going to get to tear that hat up. My father then said, when he got home, his mother got him. Then he looked at me and said, "Well, son, I knew the worst was yet to come, because I knew my daddy was going to get me when he got home." Son, we'll talk about this when I get home. Now, I don't know what was greater, the fear of how bad this spanking was going to be, or the disappointment that came across my teacher's face when she realized she was not going to be able to tear up my backside. So I went home, and I had 6 hours to wait before my daddy came home. So I prayed to God 1 gazillion times, and I made 2 gazillion promises. And when my daddy came home, he said, "Son, let's have that talk." He went into his room. He closed the door. And then he proceeded to give me a little bit more detail about the time he played hooky from school. You see, it just wasn't my daddy. It was also his older brother, my uncle. And when my grandfather got home, he looked at them and said, "Boys, I understand you had a little adventure today. Going outside and play. You guys have had a long day." Just then, Hope walked in the door, waved at me, sat down across from my father, and settled down to hear the rest of the story. My father then told me how he and his brother came in, ate dinner, got ready for bed, looked at each other, high-fived each other, and said, "Yeah!" Went to sleep. At 11:30 p.m., my grandfather walked in the room, belt in hand, turned that light on, and said, "Boys, let's talk." Since my uncle was the oldest, he started in. And I mean, he started in. And while he was giving him the business, he said, "Does it itch?" And my uncle said, "Oh yes, oh it itches. It is bad." And my grandfather said, "Well, let me scratch it. Let me rub it. Let me put some soothing balm on it." Then it was my father's turn. And my father, seeing what happened to his brother, made up his mind. when he was asked if it itched, he was going to say no. My grandfather had started, and he was giving him the business. And he said, "Does it itch?" And my father said, "Oh, no, no, Daddy, no, it doesn't itch. No, it doesn't itch." That was the wrong answer. My grandfather said, "I want it to itch." Now, oh, I'm sorry. Some of you think that the word is pronounced want. See, my family, they're from down south. And down south, if something better happened, then you want it to happen. My granddaddy wanted it to itch. And once my father understood this, oh, yes, it itch, it itch, oh, it's bad. My grandfather said, "Let me scratch it, let me rub it, let me put some soothing balm on it." Just then, I had a sinking feeling in my stomach, which was exasperated when I saw Hope stand up, wave goodbye. My daddy looked at me and he said, "Son, I want it to itch." Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests, it itched. It itched bad. But my daddy, he scratched it, and he rubbed it, and he put 2 handfuls of soothing balm on it, applied Southern style, drawn out. Now, you may ask, is there a moral to this story? Well, I don't know if there's a moral, but I do know when I read the newspaper of incidents that happened this past summer, of 3 young men in Oklahoma who were bored and killed another man, makes me wonder, maybe we need to have more parents asking their children, does it itch? Mr. Toastmaster.
We have 1 minute of silence to allow the judges to mark their ballots.